Hey guys, welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. What's going on, Eric? Hey, how are you? This is exciting for me, you guys. So, real quick, before we dive into the content for today, we're going to talk about the whole write, release, and publish process. We're going to talk about an event that I have coming up in November, November 17th. But first, I want to share with you guys a little bit of a funny. So, you may notice that the Facebook Live looks a little bit different today. I'm trying out something new. I struggle with technology, you guys, but however, this is a stretch for me because I really do struggle with technology. And so I've committed that I'm not going to let those things hold me back and keep me from doing what I want to do. So it is my hope that this is all streaming like it's supposed to, and that this is all going to work because I'm going to need this new platform to do all of the interviews that I'm about ready to do for the next 50 days for the Power of 50 movement. And so this is my kind of my test run, my dry run for it, but I do want to make sure that we don't just waste time together, that we really truly invest it. So welcome in, welcome to the new format for my videos, at least for the next 50 days. And by then, I figure if I invest 50 days in this, I'm going to be an expert at it by the time the 50 days is over, and will have mastered it, and I will no longer be a techno newbie to this system. So I am trying out, it's called Be Live, and so we're going to see how this goes and make the best of it. This lovely little learning process here. So hopefully this is streaming like it's supposed to, and we are good to go. Share the video out on, if you're coming in on Facebook or one of the other platforms, catching it on the replay. As always, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Marci Batiste. I'm your ultimate power coach, America's #1 reality-based success and recovery trainer. And one of the things, out of the many things that I do besides disrupting your toxic thoughts and self-sabotaging behaviors, is I coach new and wannabe authors. And actually just got a new author coaching client today. We're going to get started on her project in November. And so this is a great time to begin to do it, because I know at the beginning of the year, everybody's going to have on your list of resolutions, write that book, write that book. I want to write that book for 2019. So my suggestion is that you start using this time to prepare for it. Don't wait until the new year to try and gather up the tools and arm yourself with the knowledge and fill up your toolbox with the things that you need to fill it up with in order to get started. Make sure you're filling up the toolbox now so that when 2019 rolls up on you, you can hit the ground running. And so that's really what Write, Release, and Publish is going to be all about. We're going to invest about 3 hours, November 17th from 9 a.m. until noon. And we're really going to, I want to give you guys an overview of the process. So many of you know I've written, by the time this year ends, I'll have written 10 books in the last 4 years. That's a system, you guys. It doesn't, I'm not magic. I'm not magic, I promise you. It's a system. There's a blueprint that I use to be able to do this. And that's what I'm going to share with you guys, is the blueprint. We're going to go over some of the common stumbling blocks where people get stuck. So we're going to talk about how to convert a concept into content, because one of the things that I talk about both with my accountability clients, my one-on-one clients, and my authors, is that not every idea is the right idea for you right now. And so sometimes we'll have concepts in mind and things that we think would make a good book, things that we think would be appealing to someone, but we haven't flushed it all the way through. And so one of the things that we're going to talk about in Write, Release, and Publish is how to go from concept to content. In other words, how do I take this idea that I have in my head about what this book is supposed to look like, and how do I create an actual book out of it, whether you want to do an ebook, you want to do an online, have online access only, or if you want to do print, if you want to go with a publisher, if you want to self-publish. So these are all things that are included in my full author coaching program, but this workshop is going to give you an overview of the process. So I don't want you to think that you're going to walk in here at 9 o'clock in the morning and at noon you're going to walk out with a completed book, because it ain't going to happen. That much I promise you. Hey, Gracie, that's not going to happen. So I'm going to be honest with you about that. That's one thing you guys know. You're going to get honesty, transparency, and authenticity anytime you work with me in any arena at all times. So you will not, on November 17th, walk in at 9 o'clock and walk out at noon with a completed manuscript. You will not. So that's a disclaimer for that. But what you will walk out with are the tools you need to begin the process and to see it through. So you'll have the tools. You'll know how to go from concept to content. We're going to invest some time talking about how do you tell the story. You know, there's more than one way to tell the story. I have one book that I wrote in third person. I have a book that's written in the format of a journal. I have a couple platform books that are for my corporate coaching clients that I use on success. One is called Lead Like a Leader, Not Like a Boss. And the other one is called The 4 Secrets to Achieving Success. Those are more educational based books. So they're written differently. Let's see, what else? Surviving the Rain to Find the Rainbow is written as a, what would I call that? More, it's kind of a combination because I tell a story in it, but then it's also a workbook. So there's usable tools interjected throughout the book so that by the time you are, because it's the steps to recovering from domestic violence, right? And so I walk you through the 4 steps of surviving the rain. And then the 5th step is the rainbow. And so we talk about all these different phases. And so throughout that book, there are worksheets to do. There are there's some acknowledgement statements that you have to build. And I walk you through the process and how to build those and how to truly actually overcome and recover from domestic violence or any kind of personal trauma. Really, the concepts and the principles are still the same. Let's see. Talk about Love Miscarriage is a journal format. Journey to Find Your Butterfly Potential is the one that I did in third person. And that one I talk about myself as if I was somebody else. I have My World, My Life, My Rules, which is a diary, a journal. So it's literally got quotes on one page and then a quote for you to journal your thoughts and experiences on the other. Healing by Design is a workbook that's a companion thought guide for love miscarriage. So there's all these different kinds of books. I've got Live Your Genius Now is coming out. It's going to be a compilation with 8 other women talking about the things that they've overcome to be able to learn to live their genius. That's a project I work on with Dr. Will. What else? That's bad when you can't think of them all. And so the next one that I'm going to do is also going to be a collaboration piece called The Power of 50. And that's what we're really going to start talking about here. For the next 50 days, I'm going to invest time talking about the Power of 50 movement. And it really is an entire movement for women designed to help women who are 50 and over give back. We want to reach back. You know, I always say survival is a responsibility. And so this project is going to be a compilation of women's stories and tips and tools, like I call them legacy life lessons, right? And so that's going to be the format of that book. So really talking about the ways that you tell the story. And that's all that all comes clear, and it becomes easier when you know who you're talking to and when you've decided what you want your book to do for you. And so that's we're gonna go through all that. We're gonna talk about how to engage your reader. Like, how do you keep them engaged? How do you get them to not only just buy your book, but to actually read it? For those of us who are writing books that are intended to help people, it does good if you. It puts money in my pocket if you buy my book, and then technically they say you shouldn't care what people do with it, but I care. I care because I wrote the book in many instances to help. So a lot of them are self-help stories. They're self-help books. They're designed to help you come through something, to recover from domestic violence, to pick up the broken pieces of your heart when love dies too soon, to heal by design. I mean, so the journal, all of those are usable documents. And so ultimately, for me anyway, between being an author and being a coach, I want you to use the book. So how do I engage the reader? How do I motivate you through that process? And then the final thing that we're going to talk about is how to stay motivated, because so many authors get started and then stuck and stop. Let me say that again. So many authors get started, then stuck, and then they stop. And you have to stay motivated. You have to stay motivated. So we're going to talk about some ways that you can do that for yourself. Some strategies that you can use. Certainly, as a coach, I'm a huge proponent of building in accountability. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to hire me, although that would be your best avenue. Just kidding. No, I'm not just kidding at all. I'm serious. But truly having that coach there, that accountability partner to say, you know what, are you on task for this? Are you on this? Have we met this deadline? Where are we going? Boom. That's the best. Like that's the platinum deluxe super size package, right? But there are other ways that you can help yourself to stay motivated in the process while you're creating this book. And I will tell you that my first book, I procrastinated like crazy. I procrastinated to the point that when I agreed to write it, it was in November of 2013. And I threw out a deadline of February 14th of 2014. And I didn't know what I was doing. It was my first project. I didn't know all the things that I know now, right? So I didn't have a formal blueprint for it. I had a publisher and I had mentors, and then I had myself committing to write this book. And I'm like, well, it's my story, so I should be able to tell it. It shouldn't be that hard. But here's what I know to be true. You will start, you will get stuck, and you will stop. Or you'll feel so overwhelmed that you don't even start. And that was me. I procrastinated like hell. And literally, I agreed to write the book in November. I didn't start the book until January, and it was due February 14th. I actually turned it in a week late on February 21st. And I felt bad about that. I felt bad because I had missed my deadline. I'm like, once I put it out there, like if I commit to it, I'm going to do it. And so I felt bad that I missed the deadline, but I know why I missed the deadline, because I didn't have a blueprint like this. I didn't have the I hadn't built in the accountability. I didn't know then what I know now. And so that's why it took me a while between the first book and the second book to get them out. And then now that I know what I know, I can crank them out a book. I could do a book a month if I wanted to. I just have too much other stuff going on. If that was my sole focus, is to produce books, I could do 1 to 2 books a month, honestly, with this blueprint. It's just that it really is not that complex once you understand the processes and you have the blueprint. The biggest part is that accountability. And so I procrastinated from November to December into January. And finally, January, I was like, okay, girlfriend, you got to figure this out. You got to figure it out. This ain't going to go away. You made this commitment. You paid this money. You got some skin in the game. Let's get it done. And I drove up to Sedona, and I got up there, and I was like, something told me just go to Sedona. Like, supposedly that's where my book was supposed to be born. I don't know. Hey, Matthew, that's where it's supposed to be born. So I get up there, but I don't know any more than I did when I left Phoenix. But what I did do was I invested some time in meditation. I hiked. I went to the vortexes. I took a helicopter ride. I visited the Mayan ruins, and I did things that kind of calmed my thoughts and shut off some of the white noise. And so it took me out of my environment, which was very helpful. But then I fed my soul. And so then when the sun went down, I went back to my hotel, and then that's when I began the writing process. But it literally took all of that because I didn't have the blueprint that I have now. If I knew then what I know now, I could do what I do now, which is go on the couch and write a book. I can crank a book out in a couple days when I want to. And that's just it. Like once you know the process, once you know the blueprint, once you know how to get through some of these common stumbling blocks, it's up to you how fast you want to move. When do you want to put your foot on the gas? You know, one of the biggest things, so we're going to do the workshop November 17th, but then I have a full 90-day author coaching program where I hold your hand through this process. And we go from concept to creation, concept to creation. Like by the time you're done in 90 days, if you do your part, you walk away with a book in hand. You walk away with a book in hand in 90 days. So when you say, and I don't want, this is not to make anybody feel bad. When you say, I've been thinking about writing this book for years, the only thing stopping you is you. And so when that was one of the things, like we did this last year in a really small group. I called it Put It in Writing last year, but it really is more about, I changed the name of it this year because it really is about the writing process and releasing it. One of the things that I was talking to my new prospect today, now my new client, was the process of releasing, because as a creator, sometimes we want to marry our projects, and particularly when it's a book, you keep wanting to tweak it and you keep wanting to change it. And at some point you have to give it up. You have to turn it over to editing. You have to turn it into publishing. Like it has to happen. But we have this sense of, oh, it's still just not perfect yet. It's still just not perfect yet. Let me keep working on it until it's perfect. But guess what? Your demand for perfection is what's holding you back. That's what's holding you back. Matthew, yes, you can make an appointment with me. I will reach out to you once I finish this video. I will definitely reach out to you. Thank you for that. But that it's not so much the procrastination keeps you from stopping, but then you get in there and that perfectionism keeps you from releasing it. You have to let it go, even if you don't think it's perfect. And I had one of my last clients for her book. Her biggest thing that held her on her deadline, she ended up meeting her 90-day deadline, but just barely. And she had to do some express prep because she didn't want to release. And so she wanted to edit before it went to the editor. And I'm like, why would you do that? That's what you pay them for. You pay the editor to do that. It's not your job is to tell the story. Your job is to create the vision, to put it on the paper. It's the editor's job to make sure your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, your commas are where they're supposed to be, your semicolons are where they're supposed to be. If a word looks out of place, that's their job to say this sentence. As a reader, this sentence doesn't make sense to me. But new authors get stuck there because we're like, oh, well, I don't want to look bad when I send it to the editor. But I'm here to tell you that's what they're there for. And if you don't get it off of your plate and onto the editor's plate, you'll never release it. So that's why I changed the name to write it, release it, and then we can publish it. And that's the process. Write, release, publish. Write, release, publish. And that's why I say, once you know the blueprint, you can literally crank out books in such a short period of time. The longest time it takes is between editing and publishing. If you know what you're wanting to do and how you're wanting to do it, and especially something like an ebook, like seriously, you can do an ebook in a weekend. It's that simple. It's all about the blueprint. It's all about accountability. Stop procrastinating. Stop being a perfectionist and publish. That's what it's all about. So November 17th is the workshop. It's going to be a high-level overview of the blueprint. It will be the tools that you need to get you started. You will not walk in there at 9 a.m. and walk out at noon with a completed manuscript. Are we all clear on that? Crystal clear, because I don't want to hear none of that. Marci said that I was going to write, release, and publish my book in 3 hours. No, that's not what Marci said. That is not what Marci said. What Marci said is you will walk out in 3 hours with the tools you need to, and the knowledge that you need to have in order to write your book, release it, and publish it. That's what I said. That's what I promise you. That's what I guarantee you. Beyond that, I do have coaching programs available that will take you on to the next level. Or if you don't feel like you feel like you have a good feel for it, but you still just need a little bit extra, there's a couple other options available to you. So that's it. November 17th, write, release, publish. There'll be more details coming out. I'm going to add the stuff to the website this weekend for the registration, but I really just wanted to throw it out there. If you guys have questions, please just inbox me. I know, Matthew, you had some questions. So I'm going to reach out to you as soon as we finish up here. And that's it, guys. So write, release, and publish November 17th from 9 a.m. until noon. It's going to be here in Phoenix. And I'm really kind of debating if I want to do it live or via the web, but I'm leaning towards live, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm not a big one for wanting to put on live events. So I custom fitted my life so I don't have to do that. But it's going to depend in part on what the participants feel the most comfortable with. So I am willing to do it live if that's the way we want to go. Otherwise, it's going to be web-based here in Phoenix, Arizona, broadcast it out, whatever. So write, release, and publish November 17th, 9 a.m. to noon. If you have questions on the program, if you have questions particularly on the private author coaching program, the 90 days to publishing, definitely hit me up and we will talk about that. I'll talk you through, let you know what all is involved in the process, what you get for your investment. And here's the thing, this is the last thing before I go. When you sign up for something like the 90-day writers program, the authors program, it's a one-time investment. It's a one-time investment. So I say that because you're going to know the process at that point. You will have been through it from start to finish. You will have written, you will have released, and you will have published, and you'll know all the steps in between. And as long as you are diligent on your part, you'll never, ever, ever have to pay for author coaching again because you'll know the process. You'll know the process. And I'm telling you, it is the best investment you'll ever make. It's particularly if you're somebody who wants to write. If you've never written a book before, I highly recommend one-on-one author coaching. And if you're someone who wants to know the process and truly create a process for yourself where you can crank out multiple books at will, that's the program for you. That's the program for you. But certainly, the workshop in November is going to give you a great overview of that. It's also going to give you an opportunity to work with me. You can figure out then, am I for you or am I not for you? Because I'll be the first one to tell you my voice ain't for every ear. So it is what it is. Always going to be 100% honest with you. So that's it for me for today, guys. As always, thanks for living life on Mars with me. Thanks for being part of the Ultimate Power team. I look forward to those of you who are going to sign up in November. And then for those of you who are interested in the one-on-one author coaching, the 90-day coaching program, please hit me up. We'll talk. Otherwise, that's it for me today, guys. I appreciate you for joining me. I hope you guys like the new platform. I think it's really kind of cool. So we're going to see how this goes. And I'll update you. But anyway, that's it for me today, guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow, maybe not tomorrow. Definitely on Sunday, because that's when we're starting the Power of 50. All right. Talk to you guys later. Take care.